How you doing today, guys? Not sure why I don't feel like doing a video today. I mean, I kind of know, but for some reason I just feel compelled to do that. I should get my good hat. Now, hang on a second. Just be patient. Let's get a nice, bright, shiny USA going on. Let's give the dog a treat. So the dog is occupied. There you go, doggy dog. Alright, let's try this again. A little brighter hat for the US of A. Again, I'm not sure what caused me to want to do the video today, but what the heck, let's have a chit-chat. It's been a while since we had a chit-chat. Things have been about the same since the last time I came to you, but it was an interesting day today. I had a couple of young kids, not young kids, but they were young kids compared to this old man, that's for sure. Stopped by the shop, and Daniel and Eric did today. And today was, I just finished the balcony project, and I got to clean the shop up. I got stuff to take care of. It's been a long winter, and I haven't been very productive as far as keeping the shop in order. And I was taking care of things, and they came in and interrupted my day. Invited. Not invited, but welcomed, for sure. And we sat down and talked, and geez, I think we talked for 2 hours, maybe 3 hours. It's a long time. And both of them are veterans from Afghanistan and Iraq, and we talked about a lot of things today, and I think maybe that's why I'm doing the video. Maybe it's because of the vodka, who knows. But it's just, you know, at the end of the day, I'm sitting here thinking, man, we all got a story. That's the name of this channel, right? And it was interesting. One of the kids, I'm gonna call them kids because they're younger than me, but only in age, was talking to me about some of the experiences overseas, and they both talked about the experiences overseas, and they talked about the experiences coming back and dealing with life and all sorts of things like that. I don't know, it was weird because those of you that, well, not many people know me really, so I don't talk to dudes much. I'm not a dude talker. I don't know why. I've never been one. We sat there and talked for 2 to 3 hours, I bet you. And even though their story is different than my story, there's a lot of things in life that crisscross, and it may not be tangential. Yeah, it might not be tangential, but in concept or a little deeper, they do. They kind of overlap, whether it's something that you've experienced or something that you've felt, even though maybe the experience was different, the feelings are the same. I thought that was kind of interesting, and I don't know, I just thought I'd sit down and talk with you guys for a little while today. It was odd. And for those of you that, that follow me on the blacksmithing channel, it was really odd to keep, every time, we were talking, and it just, they kept coming back to this common ground of blacksmithing, which if, for this channel, it's a little more open than just that particular topic, but, something often brings us back to center. Even if it doesn't hold us there, it brings us back to center so that we can kind of, I don't know, not reset, because that's too dramatic, but at least blink. You know what I mean? Just blink for a minute. And in this case, because of my blacksmithing channel, it was blacksmithing that brought them into my world anyway. But because of their experiences overseas, which, unless you've been there, nobody can relate to that, that's for sure. You can watch the stuff, you can study the stuff, and you can kind of get an idea, but unless you've been there, there's no way to see it. And some of the stories that they told were very specific, and you could certainly visualize it, but until you're there, you just can't say you understand. I think that might be part of the reason that I wanted to talk today, is that if you find yourself in a spot where you wish that somebody can understand, it's awful hard because you know they can't. And that's weird. And people will say that. I mean, gosh, I understand. I feel for you. I understand what you're going through. And they don't necessarily mean that. They don't mean to deceive you either. And we talked, the boy, I call them boys. I'm sorry, guys. Don't take offense. The boys and I talked about spouses for a little while, or significant others, or whatever the case may be. And it's like, it's, man, I mean, you have no idea how grateful they express themselves for in this case, women that were in their lives. And one of the guys were like, the man that this woman married isn't the man I am today, and she's still there, and she's trying, and how can they understand? How can they? and that was a big thing for me today, because I have my own little issues, nothing related to what some of those guys have seen. And it's like, yeah, it's when dealing with stress, which might culminate in depression or some affliction that just doesn't lend themselves to just disappearing. I mean, it's something that just keeps hanging around. I think that's probably one of the most difficult things, is that those that are around you, your children, your family, your spouses, your significant others, man, how hard it is on them. And it was beautiful, actually. I don't know, it's kind of a queer word to use, but it was beautiful to see these tough dudes talking about how much they appreciated the fact that, and again, in this case, these women, they're trying the best they can, and they're stuck by these people. So, that's probably, I think, not the hardest, but yeah, it's an amazing thing to know that there are people out there that sacrifice as much of themselves to try to understand, really try to understand what people are going through. And I thought that was a beautiful statement on both of them. Had the same statement. I mean, we're just lucky to have these people in our lives. And I don't know, the whole conversation has affected me all day. Affected me because they interrupted my work, you sons of bitches. I'm just kidding. It was an awesome conversation. And like I said, I don't talk to dudes much face to face. And yeah, just the openness that we had. I don't know. It's just it's an interesting thing to know that regardless of the story, regardless of the genesis of the situation, feelings, emotions, and that kind of stuff, they parallel each other very, very evenly, and everybody has their own way of dealing with things. So it was an interesting conversation about being over there, about being physically and mentally affected by that experience. We'll just generalize that, and physically and mentally affected by any experience, whether it's domestic or military based or whatever. But the thing that was odd, and no offense to you guys, the two that I was talking to, they each had some physical effect, but it was in their eyes. You could see it. You could see it in their eyes. It was weird. It was almost like looking in the mirror. Not to compare my experiences with anybody else, but you can almost see it in their eyes. Yeah, it was weird. It was a weird fight that you could see going on. So I really enjoyed that conversation a lot, and it, of course, affected me throughout the evening. It made me think more and more about, we all have a story, and we all have to figure out how to deal with it. And it made me think more about the people that are next to you. you know, what are they dealing with? They have their own issues, right? And then they're sitting there. And if they're supportive people, which being supportive is above and beyond the call of duty, that's for sure. And being unsupportive doesn't necessarily mean a failure, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, for those of you guys that are, there we go, phone's gone off. For those of you guys that are standing next to somebody and really trying, yeah, I'm just gonna say thank you from everybody, even if they can't say thank you for themselves. Yeah, it's a worthy fight, even if you do lose in the end. It's a worthy fight, and thank you very much for doing that. I guess that's as far as I go with that one. Yeah, that's pretty much it. But of course, in this conversation, you know, I have to reflect on some of the things that I'm trying to deal with, and you know, some of you guys know that I have a new girlfriend, Donna. She's in my life, and she's a wonderful, wonderful egg. That's what I say. She's a good egg, and she understands a lot, and she's been through a lot, and that kind of helps. But it's funny, you know, like in some of my other videos where I talk about, or Donna is actually present. You can check out my other channel, blacksmithing channel. Everybody, you know, not everybody, but I got many comments about, oh, it's good to see Chandler happy, good to see, you know, and Donna brings me happiness. Yeah. But as much as she wishes she could, I mean, it isn't just a simple switch. It's not a simple flip of the switch. Once you go down a certain rat hole, that takes a lot more to come back out of. So I feel bad because there's no reason for her to have to support me emotionally, mentally. But, you know, she brings me happiness for sure. I mean, in her understanding and compassion, that's what I keep saying over and over again. It's just astounding. And thank goodness for those of us that have that. For those of you that don't have that, then you're on your own. But in the end, those moments of compassion, those moments where you get to escape with somebody, those will end. Hopefully not permanently, but momentarily. You know, I have a date night once a week, and you know, of course, Don and I talk and all that kind of stuff every day. But there's the rest of the day, the rest of the week that you're alone and you're still dealing with it, and you'll sink back in. And over the last few weeks, I've sunk pretty deep because you're trying to work through things, and you're stuck alone in most cases. Hopefully, some of us have the opportunity to have somebody to escape to, but and it's one thing I explain to Donna all the time is that, you know, when I'm escaped, when whatever it is, whether it's blacksmithing or somebody else or whatever, fishing or whatever the case may be, when you escape to that place, it takes away the pain for a while. It's kind of like this shit right here, freaking alcohol. It takes the pain away, but but when that's over, it doesn't fix anything. You have to keep working through it. And as much as it's a struggle, you have to. Not until you work all the way through it is it ever going to be gone, if it's ever going to be gone. And it's hard for people to understand that. I've talked about that many, many times with Donna. It's, you know, not to minimize her aspect of it, or whatever the case may be. You know, it's very difficult for somebody to say, "Well, aren't I enough?" or you know, why can't you use me or the concept of thinking about me or talking to me next to get through things. And it's a tricky thing, because it makes the person well, in this case, the person or the task, like blacksmithing, it kind of minimizes that importance, because when that's done, you still got to deal with what the frick you were dealing with, And I hope one message that I get across with this video is that for that thing or that person that takes you away, that's huge. It really is. And as much as we might sink back into whatever it is that we're dealing with, no, don't underestimate that. So for those of you that are being supporters, as much as it might sound like it's not enough, it's huge. It's huge to give us that break, just 5 minutes of break. Some people leave this world in seek of 5 minutes of peace. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know what I'm saying either. Thank you. I guess I'm gonna speak for I'm sure a large amount of people. Thank you very much for those 5 minutes of peace that you offer us. It gives our brains a chance to just rest for a second, and then hopefully go on and fight whatever it is that we're fighting. And it's odd. The brain is a weird thing. I've been in therapy for a few weeks now, and it's an interesting thing. The therapist that I'm seeing now is focused on what they call change-based therapy. So the first couple of sessions, like, well, what's your problem? Are you an alcoholic? Are you this? Are you that? Or that? And all right, so here's what you are, and here's what we're going to do, and we're going to change, and we're going to be better. And I can see how that might be effective for a lot of people, but in my case, it's not. So my therapist and I, we're kind of like bumping heads and trying to figure out the right path to go. But I don't know what the right words are. Sometimes it is what it is, you know, and you can't. Some of us that think more, not that are lost, right? If you're lost in your thought or obsessed by your thoughts, then you can kind of break away from that and get back into maybe something else. But many of us that actually think more and take everything to a more realistic level, going out and hammering on a piece of hot steel might make you feel better for a while, but it's not going to change anything. You know what I mean? So you do that to replace your anxiety or replace your depression for a moment, but then you're back where you came from. So the change-based therapy I don't think is ideal for me, but I'm still working with a therapist to see how that goes. In reality, a lot of it is just a challenge to see if somebody can understand what I'm thinking, and that goes right back to what I started with. You know, I mean, a lot of people say I understand, or they want to say they understand, and in reality, if you haven't been in this scenario, there's no way for you to understand. And you as being in our shoes, my shoes, or the person that's afflicted shoes, it's. You know, I always come back to Chandler's gotta. All right, everything that's going on, Chandler's got to do this, Chandler's got to do that. You got to get over this. You got to think about that. You got to forget the past. You got to. Nothing else in the world's got to do anything except for me. I got to do something so that I'm okay. And that really pisses me off. It really does. It's like, well, wait a minute. Why can't I just be me and the world's got to? Well, it's a big task. But I forgot my train of thought right there for a second. I do that all the time. Sometimes, yeah, when you're seeking help or talking to somebody, it's easy for them to say, well, what you got to do is you got to go start cooking, or you got to start blacksmithing, or you got to go take a walk, or you need to count to 10, or you got to sing your ABCs, or all of these things. And I don't know. What's my point, Chandler? Are you rambling, or are you actually getting to a point? Those of us that think on a more realistic level, representing reality, and it's like, okay, I can't just blow smoke up my own ass. Today I'm going to be happy. Whatever it is, I'm going to be happy. Or the delusional world is the one that kills me, you know what I mean? Well, if I don't see it, there we go. See no evil, feel no evil. And you go hide in the closet someplace, you know what I mean? You still got to open the door someday. And you still got to look in the mirror someday. And You may make it through a year or two or a month or whatever, but at some point in time, you have to face yourself and realize that you haven't fixed a thing on all that hiding time. I don't know, it's weird. But anyway, back to the story about today. Boys came in. I call them boys, sorry guys. And yeah, it was, number one, it was cool for Chandler to have a conversation with a couple of dudes, because I don't do that very often, not face to face. And we just talked about, just kept going all over the place, and it was very good. So I appreciate you guys stopping by, no doubt about it. Although you interrupted my day, you sons of bitches. But it's okay. We'll clean up the shop tomorrow. Back to the therapist a little bit, since we're still got a little battery left on this thing, and Chandler's just decided to do a video tonight. We all got a story. It's funny for me when I talk to the therapist. Actually, I had, a friend who was a therapist, and she gave me like what they call a friends and family. So I had one visit with that, and many, 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 many people who get close to me, especially those that are observational. They'll talk to me in a little, they'll talk to me for a little while, and before you know it, they're using the word concrete thinking. I remember back in college, concrete versus analytical. I remember one therapist I was talking to, and he goes, you're kind of concrete in your thinking. Or I called her, and I said, you're probably thinking that I'm concrete. And I don't think I am. I think I'm quite the opposite. Well, what's the opposite of concrete? It's funny that therapist couldn't actually come up with the term, but in thinking, I guess in thinking, they kind of group them in two categories: concrete and analytical. Concrete be black and white. It's right or wrong. I failed or passed. Analytical is, whatever you want it to be. All gray all over the place. And it's odd, because very often when I talk to somebody, especially in the professional world, they'll be putting me right down that pigeonhole for concrete thinking. My therapist did in the last session, actually. And I looked at her and I said, my therapist is she's doing a good job, considering what she's got to work with anyway. And I told her, you think you're pigeonholing me in this concrete position, but you're wrong. I'm not concrete. See, because the problem is, when you think about things, especially a lot of things, when there's a truth, if there's an opportunity to obtain truth, then it is black and white. It's either truth or not. Now, a lot of life is not that simple. I mean, a lot of life is gray area, opinion, right? But when it comes down to truth, yeah, it's right or wrong, and that's as concrete as you can get. And that's made me start thinking over the last few weeks that concrete thinking is an excuse to tell you that you just need to pretend. You need to open your mind and offer in things that just don't make sense, especially in the light of truth. And I was thinking about, on the way home of my last therapy session, because it did, among other things, come up that I was a concrete thinker. And being a software engineer, or at one point in my life a software engineer, software programmer, and somebody that understands computers, it got me thinking about binary language. Now, if you don't know what binary language is, it's the language computers use. Look it up, Google it. And I'm sure you've heard the terminology. Maybe not binary language, but all computers know are ones and zeros, right? And in reality, that's it. Is a switch on or is a switch off? Binary, 0 or 1. Is it off or is it on? And I started thinking, all right, that's as concrete as you can get, and that's as scientific as you can get. Binary. So if we were all not robotic, but computer-based, simplest computers, the simplest mental thought, and that's when they start throwing concrete at you. They're trying to say, you're just too simple. You need to expand your mind. You need to open up and see, more than black or white. And that got me thinking in my previous life of the computing world. And it's like, all right, yeah, I understand that. Binary, yes or no, true or false, on or off, 1 or 0. However, as a metaphor, as a parallel, as some type of analog, to put a pun on things. If you break something down into its most elemental state, especially in the computing world, you come down to a bit, which is one piece of data, and it's either a 0 or a 1, on or off, black and white. Concrete in concept. And I'm like, okay, I understand that, because that's what I deal with or have dealt with for a long time. But then I got thinking, because in this world that we live in today, everybody can understand the computing world. We have digital TV. Digital means binary, 1 or 0, right? You hear the term digital camera, digital TV. It's all binary. And it's like, well, that's kind of an interesting thought, because concrete means you're so close-minded. It's got to be yes or no, or I'm a failure, or I'm not a failure. It's right or it's wrong. But then if you back out a little bit, if you accept there are truths and falses, 1s and 0s, but then you stack 4 of those next to each other, so each one of those truth and false are a bit in my world. Put 4 of those next to each other, you got yourself what they used to call a nibble, which was a big deal back in some day. 4 bits of data, all right? Those 4 bits, I mean, shit, I wish I remember now, my brain's fried. All right, I don't know how many combinations that is. 0000, 0001, 0010, 0011, 011. All right? You put four of those together, you get a nibble. 8 of those together, you get a byte. A byte of data. Gigabyte, kilobyte. Some of you guys might not know this, but that's where it all comes from. Byte. 4 bits is a nibble, 2 nibbles, or 8 bits is a byte. Well, before you know it, you got 8 bytes of data. Well, 8 bytes of data is 256 different combinations. If I remember right. I think that's right. Hope that's right. And all of a sudden now, those concrete thoughts in parallel, or in conjunction, or in sequence, probably more specifically, in logical sequence, now you represent letters and numbers and values. You know, a byte of data represents a character. A is blah, 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 0001. And before you know it, that concrete thinking, that black or white thought, is now what the world is kind of run on. It gives you pictures, it gives you sound, it gives you this video. This video is a digital presentation of very elemental concrete thoughts. And as I was driving home from my therapy session, I'm like, people just don't understand that. You know, they want to be, hey, I'm happy, or you're just negative, or you're just black and white. When in reality, some of us are so attuned to all the elements that accumulate to form this nibble, this bite, this word, this whatever, that we can take a picture and break it down into individual values. And some things are black and white, and some things are purple and gray and blue, and Roy G. Biv and all that kind of stuff, RGB. And it's like, I don't know. It was just a thought that I had. There are some things that are just true and false. 1 + 1 = 2. That's the way it is. Did you do the right thing? That's a little gray. But there, I bet you we could throw a few nibbles together and come up with some determination of that. What is a human? Well, there you go. You can break down the DNA of a human being and come up with all sorts of concrete elements stacked together to create this What's the word? I forgot about it. Concrete versus I forgot the word. What's the word, children? Holy cow. Concrete versus analytical. Sorry. So humans are like so freaking diverse, but in reality it's just an accumulation of concrete yes or no, basically, elements. So I don't know. I don't know why I'm talking to you about that, but it's just a thought that came into my head. And when somebody says that you're concrete, you have to wonder whether or not they're being a little concrete. You know what I mean? Hey. Oh, he said X, Y, and Z. There we go. Let's label that son of a gun, and let's go ahead and apply some change-based therapy based on that. So you need to, what would my therapist say? You know, you get up late in the morning, and you told me that if I get up too late, then you feel the day's failed or not failed. All right, so you choose whether it's a failure. Well, okay. You get up in the morning and decide you want somebody else than the one you're sleeping with. Then you choose whether to cheat on your wife or your girlfriend or not. See, this doesn't work that way. In my world, anyway. That's the bitch of it, in my world. But in reality, if you break things down, yeah. Concrete thinking isn't a horrible thing. So somebody calls you concrete, and you feel that you may be concrete on an elemental level. Yeah, it was just something I thought about. And the conversation today with the boys, sorry guys, the guys, I mean, boys my ass. Multiple tours in Afghanistan and Iraq. Watching people blow up next to you. You know, that's it. You step on the switch, boom. You can't get much more concrete than that. There's a hell of a lot of analytical things that might have gone into how and why and all of those things that switch went off. Why were we even there? But in the end, it's a concrete thing. And from that concrete thing, boom and not boom, and we expand our thoughts into a little more analytical. It was interesting. It was an interesting conversation. And I just thought I'd talk for a while. Maybe you guys enjoy it, maybe you don't. It's alright. It was just a thought that I had. Binary data paralleling my scenario right now, and whether or not I'm a concrete thinker or an analytical thinker. It was funny when the first therapist, you know, said I was concrete. It's like, are you kidding me? I mean, a concrete thinker doesn't look at a piece of rusty steel, and this is Chandler in the blacksmithing world coming out. Look at a rusty piece of steel and say, oh, I see this metamorphosis happening. That's not a concrete thinker. They see a rusty piece of steel. Trash, no trash. So it's very funny that even in the professional world, we're so trained to pigeonhole and all that, I have to defend myself against somebody that I'm looking or seeking, hoping for guidance from. It's kind of weird. And that's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a weird conversation with Chandler, but what the heck. It's a Thursday night. Back to the guys that stopped by the shop today. Their spouses, in this case they were married. If you happen to watch this video, yeah, it's an amazing job. It's above and beyond the call of duty. And not to understand is not a failure. Alright? Jesus. Who in this world would you want to understand? Especially in that scenario, you know what I mean? So if you don't understand, it's alright. It's opening your mind. I mean, you know there's a black and white. Something's right, something's wrong, and I wish you could just flip the switch. They're not in a good spot. They're black or white, whatever it is. Flip the switch to go to the other spot. And it seems, you know, and you take on that responsibility. And you must be failing if you can't make that switch flip. And you know, I'm not an expert in any way, but my opinion, now we're not truthing, all right? Now we're analytical. My opinion is, if you understood, then you'd be in the same spot they were, and you'd need somebody to flip a switch for you. So if you find yourself questioning, why don't I understand? Why doesn't he or she respond to the same things that I respond to? I mean, my poor girlfriend is like, I love you, and gosh, it's awesome and all that kind of stuff. But why do you still have this little sadness? Why do you have this sadness, Chandler? Why isn't it enough for you? When you find yourself lost and thinking, God, I don't understand, I must be a failure. That's wrong. No. First of all, the person that you care about most likely cares about you. And especially in these boys' case, I don't think in any situation would they want you to understand. They wish you could support them and understand, but no way would they ever think or want you to understand. No way. They would never put that curse on you. So when you find yourself working with somebody, even in my case, which my situation is totally different, but everybody's is. It doesn't mean it's any more or less intense. My advice is, for those of you that are supporters, to don't let that make you feel bad. It's not that they're not listening. It's not that we're not hearing you. It's not that we're not wanting to be able to say or take whatever you say and just disappear for a while. We know that if we do take that and disappear, it'll take that peace away. But we still gotta wake up tomorrow. And yeah, for those that are supporters of people that are dealing with stresses, depressions, and anxieties and trauma, now you've been enlisted into a cause that is way beyond what anybody should have ever asked you to do. You are a hero, assuming that you try. And when you feel inadequate because you can't understand, or if somebody, I say this all the time, Donna, I feel bad, you don't understand, or I say it to other people, nobody understands what I mean. You need to accept, yeah, there's no way I could possibly understand, but I'm here. And that's where you become a hero. That's where you become a lifesaver. I don't understand. There's no way I can understand. I don't want you to be the way you are. I wish you were happy. I wish you weren't stressed. I wish I could do something to take it all away. Those are all kind things to say, but there's nothing that you could do to do that. Probably I don't know, hopefully I'm speaking for a lot of people. Probably the kindest, the most understanding thing that you could say is, I don't understand. And I wish I could. The most understanding thing you could say is, I don't understand. I hope I never do understand. But I'm here. All right? I'm not going anywhere. Donna tells me that all the time. I'm not going anywhere, Chandler. And I turn around and say, you must be a rabbit boiler, huh? But she understands. Understands that comment anyway. Yeah, I think the most understanding thing to say is, I don't understand. And there's no way that I possibly could, because I'm not you in your shoes after walking the path that you walked. But I'm here, and I'll stay here. But you need to accept what it is you're asking from me. You're asking me to not understand, but to stand by you. And that is an important thing. And I don't think that's too much to ask out of somebody. And if you were to be very especially depending on the situation of the person that you're talking to. If you were to be very clear in your communication, I don't understand, but I'm not going anywhere. But you need to understand, or you need to accept that I stand with you without that. You need to remind me, or you need to remember yourself that I don't understand, but I haven't gone anywhere. That's your job. That's my job when I talk to, in my case, Donna at this point in time. All right? I don't understand, but I'm not going anywhere. But that doesn't mean you can be an asshole. Or it doesn't mean you can be an asshole without knowing that it affects me. I'm hurt too. So, I don't understand, but I'm not going anywhere. But you need to know that you have a responsibility too. And I'll stand by you if we both play that game. I guess that's kind of the message of the whole thing. And yeah, that's it. I think that's the message. There's a whole lot of convoluted, tangential kind of things that I went through. But it all comes down to concrete thinking. Do you understand? Nope. You could pretend to, but there's no way you can unless you were that person in that situation, with that scenario, with that history. Concrete thinking. Nope, I can't. Nope, I don't. Doesn't mean you can't feel. Doesn't mean you doesn't have emotions. Can you stand next to that person? The answer is, yeah, I can do whatever I want. I can sacrifice everything in my happiness. That's very analytical. But in the end, are you helping anything? But when you bring those two together, especially with open communication, and you say something like, I don't understand, I'm not going to pretend to, but I'm not going anywhere. But I can't do this alone. Even though you are going through whatever you're going through, I'm going through what the effect of you going through is producing. I'll stand next to you. But you need to know that I'm standing there. You need to give me what it takes so that I can stand there next to you. It's a two-way street. When I'm talking to these boys today, I saw that, Now, I hope they go back to their wives today and say, I talked to somebody and we were talking openly about things, and thank you. I mean, they told me, thank you. Oh my gosh, I have such a great woman. I have such a great partner. Hopefully, they can go back to their partners and say the same thing, and that's the key. The partners need to be, they need to say, I wish I could understand, but I can't, but I'm not going anywhere. And we poor bastards that are fighting everything and causing grief to somebody that might not have had grief without us, we need to accept that we're the ones that are causing grief. And in the right situations, consider ourselves extremely lucky to look somebody in the eyes and say thank you. I don't know. That's the thought for tonight. Because a couple of guys stopped by the shop. And I'm going through what I'm going through. They're going through what they're going through. And a million people are going through what they're going through. Yeah. Being able to say I'm sorry when you frig up. And thank you for standing there and not leaving. I think that's a big deal. Concrete thinking. It's not a horrible thing. Enough of that concrete, lad it up into nibbles and bites, and before you know it, you got a pretty amazing, thoughtful process. Everybody's got a story. That's part of mine today. If you enjoyed the video, I hope so. If you don't, hate me. Catch you next time. Ciao.